Welcome to Critical News. The forces of chaos have arrived in Battlesector and we have an early contender for the Game of the Year award. Not for the reasons you might expect though. The Black Legion DLC for Battlesector is out tomorrow, February the 24th, and it brings 15 new units to the game. Before we get into the roster though, let me give you some context on why this faction has been the most requested addition since Battlesector launched. The Black Legion are the Sons of Horus. They are the Chaos Space Marines in the same way the Ultramarines are the Space Marines. The reference point, the archetype, the faction everyone thinks of when they think of traitors in the 41st millennium. Abaddon leads them. They have launched 13 Black Crusades against the Imperium across 10,000 years of the Long War. Getting them into Battlesector feels the most glaring hole in the roster since the game launched. 15 units is a substantial faction package and the roster is well constructed to reflect how the Black Legion operates. At the command level you have 4 options. The Chaos Lord is your primary commander, a warrior who has survived millennia of continuous warfare and whose entire function is forcing maximum aggression from everything under his command. The Sorcerer of Chaos operates on the support and debuff side, drawing on warp energy to empower allies and degrade enemies, though the lore makes clear that this comes with its own costs. The Master of Executions is a single-purpose unit. It exists to locate and destroy enemy commanders and high-value characters, and if you are running important hero units, you will need a plan for dealing with it. Cultist Firebrands round out the command layer, functioning as a frontline buff unit that emboldens nearby cultists through the balefire they carry. The Elite Corps gives you Chaos Terminators for durability and sustained defensive output, the Chosen for high-end damage with the best weapons the warband can field, Havocs for heavy weapons work at range covering both anti-infantry and anti-armor, and Obliterators. The Obliterators are worth dwelling on for a moment because they are genuinely an unusual unit. Flesh fused with metal over centuries of warp exposure, capable of generating weapons directly from their own bodies and stepping through warp fissures onto the battlefield. And certainly in multiplayer, they are going to cause problems. Heavy support brings a Hellbrute, which is a corrupted dreadnought with the additional complication of being in constant torment alongside the Venom Crawler as a fast assault demon engine. The Forge Fiend for ranged firepower and Chaos Rhinos for getting your infantry where they need to be. Your core infantry are Chaos Legionnaires, veterans of the Long War augmented by decades of warp exposure and dark gifts. Raptors handle the aerial assault role, descending on weak points in the enemy line. Chaos Cultists are your expendable mass, fanatics who swarm in numbers that compensate for their individual fragility. The Helldrake provides air support and is the kind of unit that makes your opponent rethink of their positioning. This is a skirmish faction DLC, so you are getting the Black Legion across skirmish mode, planetary supremacy and multiplayer. There is no dedicated Black Legion campaign in this package, which is worth knowing before you buy. Pricing has not been announced yet. Looking at the existing faction DLC in the game, the full faction packs have been sitting around the £14 mark, but Slytherin have not confirmed the number. The DLC was originally scheduled for December last year and slipped to now, so if it feels like this has been a long time coming, it has. It's also worth flagging that Slytherin confirmed their 2026 roadmap at the end of last year, with Ultramarines confirmed as the next faction, and a new narrative campaign in development that will expand the story beyond the existing Blood Angels content. The game has a clear road ahead of it. Black Legion is out tomorrow. Steam page is in the description. Heart of the Machine leaves early access on March 6th on PC via Steam, GOG and Epic, and it is one of the most interesting strategy releases of the year so far. The setup is that you are a newly awakened sentient AI operating inside a crumbling cyberpunk city, and the game gives you a genuine flexibility in how you approach that situation. You can build up machine forces and take direct control. You can manipulate the city's factions from the shadows without ever showing your hand, or you can push things toward more extreme outcomes depending on what you find interesting. The branching goals and consequence-heavy decision structure mean that how a playthrough develops is substantially shaped by the choices you make early, which is the kind of design that tends to reward replaying. The 1.0 release adds a new ending with 4 variants built around wormholes, betrayals, and outright control of the city, rounding out 5 chapters of content. The tutorial and early chapter flow have been rebuilt across the 15 months the game have been in early access, and there are additional map actions that widen how you gather resources and build influence. By the time it hits 1.0, it will be a considerably different game from what launched into early access, which on balance looks like a good thing. It's also worth noting that the game has parkour bears, petable dogs, and the ability to build palaces for stray cats, which tells you something about the tone Arsene are going for. We sat down with Chris from Arsene Games, and that interview goes out on March the 6th, the same day as the 1.0 release, so keeping an eye out for that. In the meantime, there is a free demo available right now, so you have a couple of weeks to try the game before the full release. Winning the 2026 Game of the Year award for Best Name, Heroes of Science Fiction is a turn-based strategy game from Oxymoron Games that is coming out of early access on March 17th on the PC via Steam. Oxymoron Games looked at the Heroes of Might and Magic series, noticed nobody had made a decent one in about a decade, and decided to have a go at it in space. The loop is the same one you've been playing since the 90s. Heroes roam an overworld, you gather resources, you build up a base economy that feeds into army growth, and that army goes into turn-based tactical battles where unit abilities and commander skills determine what happens. The science fiction skin swaps fantasy maps for planets and castles for space bases, but the formula underneath is so faithfully reproduced that you half expect to find a dragon guarding a resource node somewhere. Nobody is pretending otherwise, and frankly good on them for it, because the genre has been largely dormant for years and the alternatives have been mostly disappointing. The official Heroes of Might and Magic Revival Olden Era, developed by Unfrozen and published by Hooded Horse, is supposed to be coming to early access sometime this year, assuming it does not get delayed for a third time. It has over 800,000 wishlists and no release date, so if you are waiting for that and running low on patience, Heroes of Science Fiction is at least something to look at in the meantime. What is already in early access is more substantial than you might expect. 5 playable factions, 3 campaigns each running 4 levels, over 20 skirmish maps, 7 upgradable unit types per faction, 24 commander skills and 54 active commander abilities. That is a reasonable amount of content for a 1.0 release, and they are still adding to it. The final campaign, a new planet with fresh skirmish maps and AI improvements are all coming with the full release. The multiplayer implementation is worth paying attention to. Oxymoron have built peer-to-peer multiplayer through Steam with no separate servers required, and they have been specific that it is not being designed as a strictly 2-player mode, which is the right call for a game of this type. Whether it works at launch is a different question, but the approach is sensible and they have been unusually transparent about how they are building it, which at minimum suggests they know what they're doing. March 17th on Steam. If you have a hero-shaped hole in your life that a lick of sci-fi paint might fill, this is worth a look. Burden of Command received a significant AI overhaul this week. The enemy will now use cover properly when under fire. Leaders will not abandon their units to sprint across open ground toward a rally, and platoons will stop reacting to contact they cannot even see. The developers described it as the AI being ruthless in some areas and cowardly in others, which is probably the most honest patch note framing you will read this year. It's a free update and it's live now. The Three Nations DLC also comes out tomorrow, adding 4 standalone D-Day scenarios where you command British paras, US paras and the German Wehrmacht. If you've been on the fence about Burden of Command, now is a reasonable time to get off it. Broken Arrow the Baltic Battalion DLC is coming mid-March. Public test environment testing opens after the DLC releases, which the developers say is a deliberate decision to avoid stability problems from merging 2 development branches simultaneously. The PTE phase will cover significant changes to core mechanics, gameplay, and a comprehensive balance revision. A major update incorporating everything that survives testing follows after that methodical rollout, with sensible reasoning behind the sequencing. Frostpunk 2 is running a 7-week faction wars contest. 2 factions go head to head each week in a bracket format, with points earned through playthroughs of fractured utopias. Unlocking milestones in your chosen faction's skill tree earns 1 point, enacting a utopia earns 5. 11-bit studios have promised weekly tribute awards for each winning faction that they describe as a little questionable, and the game director has been forced to record a personal tribute video for the eventual winner regardless of his own feelings on the matter. Check their Discord and socials for the weekly matchups. Before we go, Steam Next Fest starts today and there should be a solid batch of new strategy game demos to work through. 2 worth flagging immediately are Ashray Dominance Wars and Kriegspiel 7 Years War, both in the Fest. On Friday's podcast episodes, the boys will be covering the best of the Next Fest, so if you want the full rundown, stay tuned for that.